Well, one of those focuses of the AU-EU summit has been Africa's youth and creating job opportunities. Well, joining me in the studio is Kevin Osido. Thank you very much for joining us. He's a youth representative at County Governance Watch. Now, are you encouraged by this new EU fund that's aimed at creating jobs for young people in Africa?
Of course, I'll give you a yes and no and a no answer to that question, because it is a yes to me, because then this complements the long-term relationship between Africa and Europe, and I think that indeed as the summit proceeds, and the theme that they have currently is talking about investing in young people in Africa, looking at the youth bulge and the increasing population in Africa, it is important that indeed we invest in opportunities that are going to ensure that young people of Africa are employed. But it is also a no, because African countries can be able to run their own programs, can be able to put up subsidies to ensure that the youth are employed. And this is, of course, in addition to several other efforts that are being made by African countries to be able to ensure that young people are employed.
Well, why is unemployment in Africa such a challenge?
There could be several reasons as to why unemployment is a challenge, but I think that the most important one is looking at the increasing population. In fact, right now in Africa, more than 300 million are between the ages of 10 to 24, and this number is expected to grow up to about 510 million in the next 10 years. So if African countries and governments do not invest in expanding opportunities to ensure that young people are employed, then we are going to be seeing similar scenarios like what we are seeing happening in Libya, which is indeed a very disenfranchising thing to be happening to young people. But this is because African countries have not been able to look at the future, because the youth are actually the staple foundation for future development, which is supposed to be sustainable, and also guaranteeing that the youth that is of course expanding in terms of population are provided with opportunities through policies and conducive environments within which they can be able to exercise their own skills and even potential, because many young people in Africa are entrepreneurs. They are able to churn their own, more or less, to generate opportunities to ensure that what they acquire is actually sustainable. But we don't see African nations and governments supporting young people's interests to be able to ensure that they are that they create opportunities for employment by themselves.
I'd like to talk about entrepreneurs in a minute, but what precisely do governments need to do in Africa to encourage more
They must
employment?
be able to create conducive environments to ensure that young people are going to not only exercise their potential, but are also going to ensure that they are supported. Look at the number of young people who are crossing from Africa to Europe, which is why this summit is very important. But remember that a summit only happens within an X number of days. What happens beyond the summit is very important, and that's why African leaders must continuously invest in sustainable development opportunities to ensure that young people are going to be given sustainable opportunities that are going to guarantee sustainable employment for Africans.
So how important is it to encourage, fund and mentor entrepreneurs in Africa?
It is very important, because anywhere in the world,
Excuse me.
and as we've talked about the increasing youth bulge, if we encourage entrepreneurs in Africa, then I'll tell you, for instance, that, for example, we can guarantee that for the next 10 years, Africa can be able to generate more than $500 billion within its GDP. But as it is right now, those opportunities are scarce. They are not available, and that is why African governments must be willing to generate policies that are going to ensure that the youth have skills, that the youth, of course, the skills match between academics and what we do on a daily basis is also encouraged, and that and of course that the policies that are generated by the African countries are those policies that are going to be youth friendly, and they are policies that are also going to ensure that the young people who just want to do their bits and pieces are not frustrated. You know, For instance, in Kenya, we have lots of levies and charges, even on young entrepreneurs. We have lots of programs that have been put up by the government. But if you look at the kind of the uptake of some of these funds, for example, the Kenyan Youth Enterprise Development Fund, it is very low. And there are lots of reasons why that is happening, which is why even as the summit is going on, it is important that African countries look at indigenous methods of encouraging young people to be entrepreneurs within their own countries and within the continent of Africa.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your analysis there. That was Kevin Osido, Youth Representative at County Governance Watch. Thank you.